Rage on that beat, going crazy. Rage on that beat, going crazy.
Good evening and welcome to a slightly different show than normal because I've had to pre-record this show due to my dodgy internet, which can go at any time. And so I thought it would be better if I did a pre-record and try to upload it while I do have internet so that, well, you don't miss out and I don't miss out because I like to do these things. But obviously I'd much prefer to be there live with you, so I will attempt to do this as live as we say in TV land. Anyway, I hope you are all well. I hope you are good. And if you're watching this live, then thank you very much. Please hit the likes. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. That would be absolutely wonderful. I hope your week has been good in the world of Stadia. Boy, we've got a lot to go through, a lot of things to discuss. It has been an exciting week in the world of cloud gaming. I think you'll all agree. Things are hotting up. Things are getting exciting. The future is getting closer, as they say. But anyway, before all that, as I know you like to see on these channels, let's have a little quick look at the world of Stadia and the Stadia news this week, just to get us up to speed and all of that. So without further ado, it's news time. Welcome to the news. So before we go through all that's been happening in the world of Stadia in the last 7 days or so, hot off the press, finally Destroy All Humans. Where's it been? Has finally been certified at the various certification sites. ESRB here. Destroy All Humans from THQ. Platforms Stadia. So finally, and I think it's been spotted on Peggy and some other sites as well. So that means it is coming very soon. And we're always meant to put a caveat that there's no guarantee it's coming. It's coming. I don't know any title that's not been registered that isn't coming. The question is, when is it coming to Stadia? So I have postulated that since we've had radio silence on Destroy All Humans, since it was released for all the other platforms, and we knew it was coming to Stadia. In fact, it was one of the titles they featured in their sort of Stadia games before Stadia was even launched. So we know, and it's been a key title, or one of many key titles that was going to come to the platform long before it even arrived on the other platforms. And then there was radio silence. We could say, well, that's the way Stadia operate, Clive. Or you could question, why has that been, and why is it coming out now? So I am postulating the fact that it was out on other platforms for a couple of months and is now about to come out on Stadia is not necessarily a porting issue, but because I think they may well have agreed to give Destroy All Humans a sales window on those platforms before it becomes a Stadia Pro title. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am saying it here. I think this is going to be a Pro title. Now, if since I record this, there's an update on the blog and I'll either be proved a genius or will look very foolish, but I will take that risk. I think Destroy All Humans, the reason there's been radio silence on it and the reason that it's releasing now after such a gap since its previous launch on the other platforms is I think it's going to be a Pro title for October. There you go. I said it, ladies and gentlemen. I said it. Anyway, so there we go. Now, don't forget, tomorrow, I believe it is the 28th, yes, tomorrow, Risk of Rain 2 arrives. And so obviously the Risk of Rain 2, which looks a really cool game, features the Sundered Grove, the new level coming first on Stadia. So I think what this is obviously Risk of Rain 2 was released for other platforms not that long ago, and they've done some updates, and they were always bringing some new updates to those platforms as well. But I think that it's coincided with Stadia's launch, so it's sort of ready. So we're going to get the benefit of that before the other platforms do, which I think is really cool that we're getting these first on Stadia type things, not just games, but levels and exclusives and stuff like that. It's really showing the faith that, well, maybe not the faith, but the deals, at least the deals that Stadia are doing with developers and publishers, etc., to kind of incentivize or give a reason for why you'd want to play this game on Stadia and not anywhere else and things like that. And I think that's really cool. But it launches tomorrow, so that I think that's absolutely, cool. When we think about it, September has been a right rinky-dink month in terms of titles, and we forget this, especially with the news that I'm coming to, obviously about Luna and all that kind of stuff and everything else and all these sort of things. We sometimes forget. Remember how we were all joyous that we had 6 Pro games for September, and then since then we've had a raft of other launches. September's just had so many games that have arrived in September, plus other game announcements. All those indie games that were announced last week. Risk of Rain arriving tomorrow. Maybe some other title arriving tomorrow as well. Who knows? But it's been overall a really good September. And we know October is going to be good. Of course, I've got Marvel arrived in September as well. We've got great titles coming in October. Great titles coming in November, possibly December. Cyberpunk, hello. So it's a good old few months as we come into this sort of the busy season of games and specifically new games as well. So if you thought September was good, hold on to your pants, people, because October and November are going to be pretty good as well. I can guarantee that. And I'm just talking at the games level. I'm pretty confident about that. Other news, again, talking of game launches, of course, we have Cake Bash, which was rumoured to be coming. I think there was a PEGI or ESRB registration. Keep that low. So Cake Bash, which is a 4-player party game, which looks a lot of fun from our friends at CodeSync and stuff like that, with the publisher CodeSync, obviously developed by High Tea Frog. It looks kind of fun, if we're honest about it. I mean, it does look kind of fun. Fogs. Okay. You play as a duo of dogs in a captivating puzzle-filled adventure. I'll give it a go, but linked by a stretchy belly, you'll need to bark, bite, and bounce your way in co-op or single player through obstacles to set across theme worlds of food, sleep, and play, filled with hilarious physics-based gameplay and sneaky secrets. You know, something for everybody. And a game I'm particularly interested in here, Ari and this. Ari and the Secret of the Seasons as well. I do love a good platformer here. Of course, we've seen this trailer before, but it's good to know that it's coming. Of all these games, the only one that's actually got a date is CodeSync releasing Cake Bash on the 15th. I should hasten that, on the 15th. The others, we know they'll be coming fairly soon. They just haven't got dates. So expect October, November, I think, for these, definitely. But again, if you're into sort of adventure games, puzzle games, then this looks really cool. Award-winning, of course. Ari and the Secret of Seasons is an award-winning adventure game following a young girl named Ariel, or Ari. Thank you, we'll stick with Ari. As she journeys across the great world of Valdi. By becoming the guardian of winter, Ari gains the ability to manipulate the seasons around her. Ari will learn to control the seasons and use them to defeat enemies, overcome obstacles, and solve complex puzzles on her adventures across Valdi. So, that's, I like those kind of games. Nice, relaxing kind of campaign, single campaign player game. Not too bad. And of course, as I hate to, as they always remind us, and you'd read this just to refresh yourself now and then, always at the end of these blog posts. More games are coming to Stadia this year. Never forget that. Never forget that. Including Immortals Phoenix Rising, Baldur's Gate 3, hello, Cyberpunk 27, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, etc., etc. Never forget. Never forget. Anyway, and the other thing, of course, is the launch of the Founders Hub on the Stadia Community Hub. If you're a founder and you've not signed up, then get yourself over there. Signed up to the Founders Hub. A lot of conversation going on, a lot of activity and stuff like that. Look at all these busy people. Let's have a look, see who's making the most noise. This is all time. Let's forget about it. That's 24 hours, please. Who's been making the most noise in the last 24 hours? What? Michelle's overtaken me. It was me. Oh, growl. I've started gaming this, I've seen it as a game. But there's lots of good conversation, interesting questions, interesting topics and stuff like that. And hopefully it is all feeding back to the Stadia team. Chris and Grace are involved with it and they, comment on stuff and like that. And that's really cool. And I, for one, think it's a great idea. I know some people feel a bit left out. People who bought the Premier Edition and sort of say, well, why can't I be included in it and stuff like that? No one's taking anything away from you. They're just adding something to Founders. And I think there are different ways they could have cut this or approached it. And I think the most simple way is to sort of, for like an insiders thing. For me, the simplest way is just to sort of go via the Founders initially. It's a sort of way of rewarding the Founders. Who arguably, you can argue as much as you want if you brought the Premier Edition and you missed out on the Founders Edition. At the end of the day, from my point of view, the Founders took that leap of faith straight away. It wasn't as though Founders Editions sold out within the first week. I think it was a good couple of months. I'm quoting a reference I've seen somewhere, but it's like a month and a half or something like that at least. So there was no hesitancy amongst the Founders. And they took that leap of faith. And yes, we were rewarded with these little stars and no numbers after our name and all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, for me, I think it's a nice little reward for the founders. And I think, yeah, they could potentially expand it to other people, have an insiders hub. I've suggested that they have a sort of an insiders hub and make that maybe open to other people. Xbox has an insiders hub and you can apply for it and stuff like that. And then the more you're involved in it, the more active you are, the more you sort of win rewards, which gives you access to sort of inner circles within it, depending on how active you are within the hub. So that's just maybe an idea, but it's interesting and it's good. I think there's over 1,000 people. Yeah, look, it's growing all the time. Like yesterday, there was over 1,000. Now there's 1,246. So the hub is growing. There's a lot of founders, a lot of people. People who go, there's no Stadia players. There's a minimum of 1,000 founders who got off their butt and decided to join this. I'm sure there's countless founders who haven't done that. But anyway, so I know it's a bit controversial within circles, but overall, when you take the positives and the negatives, I think it comes out on the positive side. I think this is a very positive side. I, for one, welcome it. I think it's a good idea. I think they were damned if they did and damned if they didn't on this, and the way they did it. They were on to a loser on that. But overall, I think that it's a win, really, for Stadia and for the founders, especially, of course. That's my view. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I know some people's noses were put out by it a bit, or felt that, you know, it's not very welcoming to other people, especially people who got the Premier Edition and stuff like that. To me, I think, you know, there are different ways they could have cut it, and I think this is the most simplest and straightforward way, whilst at the same time rewarding founders as well. So that's just my view on it. You know, you take your money, you pay your price. You pay your price, you take your money. All of that kind of stuff. Anyway, but let me know, you know, what you think about that and how you feel about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a quick look over all the kind of news and all that's happening in the world of Stadia and all of that. Of course, the big news, ladies and gentlemen, is, of course, Luna. Amazon. Yes, Luna Plus. So Amazon's finally decided, not finally, I didn't know, it didn't need an extra finally there, Clive. It didn't even any finally. We knew they were going to be, we knew Amazon were working on a cloud gaming project, codenamed Project Tempo. We knew this, just question whether it was coming out. Some speculated next year, and I still think it's coming out next year in its official form, but what they've done is an early release. Let me just start this off really with, ladies and gentlemen, if there was any doubt that cloud gaming is here, when Amazon enters a new market, usually off the back of some original pioneers, I hasten to add, you know that market is a thing. Okay? When Amazon enter their ring, you know this thing's just got serious. So for anyone you still come across who thinks cloud gaming's never worked, cloud gaming's not a thing, it'll never be a thing. Right? Anyone who says that, you have my permission to roll your eyes back, sigh, even scoff a little, or just feel pity for the poor, deluded souls. Like the old deluded gold prospector shouting at the demise of the Wild West because the iron railroad coming down these parts ruining the Wild West, where there was the iron ghost, the iron beast. Get over it. It's coming, mate. It's not even coming. It's here. It's here. Luna is upon us, ladies and gentlemen. What was previously known as Project Tempo has now been partially released into the world, well, the US only, in an early access form. I, for one, welcome Amazon and Luna into the cloud gaming arena. Oh, welcome, sirs and madams, because it helps introduce the concept of cloud gaming to the masses and forces the competition to really emphasize and focus on their differences. Competition is good. Consumer choice is good. Amazon entering the market, we know that they have a big impact, is good all round, hopefully, all round for cloud gaming. But let's break down what we actually know about Luna. Okay, not speculation, but the facts that we have based on Luna's presentation by Amazon and the interviews with the key personnel behind Luna. So first of all, what is Luna? Well, I'm going to quote here from the Washington Post, of course, owned by Jeff Bezos. So you'd like to think that in this case, the Washington Post actually get their facts right? You'd think. But according to Washington Post, and this is why I'm quoting Washington Post, ironically enough. Isn't it ironic? Ironic's not the word. But this is why I'm quoting Washington Post, because they're owned by Jeff Bezos. The service includes Luna Plus Game Channel, where players can access an array of games on a subscription basis. The game catalogue looks to be a work in progress, but the presentation spotlighted Control, Resident Evil 7, and Sonic Mania, and touted a new partnership with Ubisoft. A separate Ubisoft channel will allow Luna users to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Far Cry 6 on their release days. Ooh. So let's compare the Luna marketing page and some of the press that we've seen. Let's compare it to the actual press page. So I'm going to go to the press page here. So here we are. Introducing Luna, the cloud gaming service, which is easy to play great games on devices you already own. No waiting for lengthy downloads or updates. Just play. And as I said, requesting early access. So it is in early access mode anyway. Maybe some people have speculated they've learned from Stadia. Maybe Stadia could have presented themselves this way because not all the features were there. And we can have that debate, but it's done now. Stadia launched with the promise of features to come. It didn't launch on the basis those features would be there. And so it may have been better to have couched it in that frame that it was a sort of early access. Just sort of give it that tag of some sort, I guess. But we can debate that, but it's partly irrelevant now. It's done, isn't it? And we're going to come up to a year of Stadia, and it'll be pretty featureful, I think, come November. I'm hoping, anyway. Anyway, we're talking about Luna. We're not talking about Stadia, ladies and gentlemen. If we look at their marketing, it's very similar, the layout, to Stadia. Quelle surprise. This is what Amazon do. As I said before, they tend to not necessarily be a pioneer, tend to sort of jump onto the back of other concepts, package it, sell it hard, all of these kind of things. But the no waiting for lengthy downloads or updates. Heard that before. Game on your favorite screens. Heard that before. Of course, the great thing about Amazon and Luna is obviously, Amazon have their Fire Sticks and their Fire tablets and things like that, and their apps. And of course, you can play through the Chrome and you can play on the PC and Mac, etc., and web apps. If we look at I want you to have a look at the game titles here. Now, if you're launching a new service, and you're selling it on the back of games, you really want to put your best games, the best games you have now that you can talk about now, front and center. And sure enough, the best games they probably got, and obviously best games are subjective. What I mean is the close ones to the AAA games, the bigger games are clearly, literally front and center here. Control, Grid. Sonic is a well-known IP, so that attracts his attention. You've got Resident Evil here as well. But this sort of, your eye focuses here. Okay, Control and Grid. And Control is the big title I think that they have out of this. But one thing I want you to notice here is down here, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and over here, Watch Dogs Legion. Now, They are selling Luna Plus on the basis that these games are available or becoming available very soon. Now, I think this is slightly misleading, and I'll come to it why. Explore action, adventure, platform, indie, shooter, RPG, racing, and classic games. Classic games from Ubisoft, Capcom, 505 Games, and Team 17. We're always adding more. So I think there is a list which we can go to. If we just check out the list from Cloudy with Games. So this, thank you, Dunks, Cloudy at Games here. I counted 66. I may have miscounted here, but there are 66 games that are coming. Nothing out of there really flies out at you, to be honest. But again, it's personal taste. But there's no, where's Marvel Avengers? Where's Doom Eternal? I mean, there's some, big titles there. But where are the big AAA titles that we've sort of come to? You won't be able to see them. Faded out there, I noticed. But trust me, you can check it out. And it's interesting to see there are games on here that are on Stadia, like the steampunk games and stuff like that. Sorry, the SteamWorld games and things like that, and Grid and familiar games that we've seen, that we know already on Stadia as well. Traitors. So that's fine, but it's just an interesting observation, I think, about the lists. So yeah, bear in mind the presentation of the games here. So again, using familiar icon, you see Sonic or Mario or whatever, you think instant game. So good use of an absolute classic icon, even though Sonic Mania, I don't know. I'm not a Sonic expert, but there you go. So here we are. Get started with game channels. Okay, this is an important thing. Unlimited hours of play. I don't think there's going to be an option of limited hours, as some other people, I know Brian, Club Stadia, not just him, but other people have suggested that's just to counter the fact that GeForce Now, on the base level, you have a limited period of play. It's just an added bullet point to add. I don't think there's going to be a Luna base. I think Luna base is Luna Plus. And early access pricing, I'll come back to that again at $5.99. Now it's early access, and they've admitted that price will change. Growing library of games, 1080p, 60 frames per second, 4K coming soon. Fair enough. It's early access. These features can come later to see what they're doing there. Stream on 2 devices at a time. That's pretty cool. Play on PC, Mac, Fire TV, web apps for iPhone and iPad. So we've talked about, other people have talked about how that's the web apps for iPhone and iPad are their way of circumnavigating the need to have an app on the iTunes store, as it were, and thus get around the issue that Xbox, Games Pass, and Stadia are having. And maybe it is a route that Stadia could take. We'll see. And then coming soon, Ubisoft, unlimited hours of play. Again, strange that they mentioned it, but as I say, it could be just to deflect from the fact that GeForce Now has limited hours of play. Ultimate editions with DLC for select titles, so very much like Uplay Plus. Up to 1080p, 60 frames per second, 4K coming soon. Stream on one device, which is interesting. The license may limit it to that. Play on PC, Mac, Fire TV, web apps, and iPhone. So here's the controller. Let me know what you think of the controller. Amazon Basics. Yeah, it does look a bit Amazon Basics. Who said that in the chat? Yeah, very good. Again, it's a preference. My new controller came personally, and it's very derivative, and that's why I joke it's Amazon Basics. I think the whole thing is a bit Amazon Basics personally, but that's just me being a bit catty. Ooh, check these out. My new Wasabi came today, but I think this looks a premium product, and I love these controllers. But again, it's subjective, but I prefer these than, ladies and gentlemen, that. But again, personal preference. It's powered by the cloud, so connects via the Wi-Fi. Learning from Stadia there, of course, to just reduce one of the chinks in the latency chain. Very good. But interesting enough, you can play because of Bluetooth 2.0 in the Fire Sticks and things like that. You can use an existing controller to be able to play on the TV. Now, that is something that would be really cool if Stadia could introduce, I think. To be able to sort of connect with your Xbox controller and stuff like that. And maybe it's something they can do with Sabrina and stuff like that in the future. Sabrina is another issue in terms of how Stadia functions with that. And I know I'm not going to get down that avenue, but in principle, if Stadia could introduce the fact that you don't need a Stadia controller, but they may feel that the overall experience is better with the controller, and therefore that's why they are limiting it to that. But personally, if they could allow you to connect any controller to the new Chromecast Ultra, so Sabrina, whatever, I think that'd be a cool feature for Stadia, but we'll see. And of course, integrating with Twitch, which of course is a no-brainer really. And I noticed, and I think Brian showed it actually, that on their UI page, you see the game, some game clips, and then who's playing that game underneath on Twitch. And once the YouTube bit's rolled out, we know the Stadia UI needs kind of an update because it's becoming a bit redundant based on the amount of games, ironically enough, based on the amount of games it's got. It needs its search bar, it needs organizing slightly better. But if on the individual game pages you had a connection to streamers on YouTube, in the exact same way Twitch are doing, I think that'd be a really cool feature. We're going to see, I say that Amazon are not pioneers. They are pioneers to a certain degree, and we're going to see things that they do, that Stadia could do, and stuff that Stadia does, that Luna can do, will do, and Nick and have done. And this is all good. As I say, competition is good and something we should embrace. So some frequently asked questions, and I think this is the key thing here. How long will early access pricing for Luna last? $5.99 is only available during Luna access, early access. Okay, so that suggests that potentially the actual price, will be more, but then they'll have a better value proposition. There'll be more games by the time it launches officially and comes out of early access and stuff like that. And then you've got the Ubisoft channel, which is, again, it will provide you with access to play on one device to 4K. Stay tuned for more news. So basically, you've got these two channels already. Okay, and what I find misleading is you don't have the Ubisoft channel at the moment. It's coming soon. What you have is Luna Plus. And that means Valhalla, Watchdog Legions, that's not what you're going to get with Luna Plus. You're not going to get those titles. Those are the two AAA titles on this list, apart from Control, really, arguably. But they're definitely the only two brand new launch AAA titles coming. And you're not going to get them on Luna Plus. And this is why my theory is this. It's very straightforward. Amazon is about selling and selling you subscriptions. That's what they want to do. If we look at an interview that they've done here, before we get to the interview, so what I'm saying is there may be 66 games now and more games coming, but the question is it a case of quantity over quality? Now you could say that about Stadia, arguably, but the thing about Stadia is major AAA titles are coming day or thereabouts. We've had Marvel Avengers, we've had Doom Eternal, we know Valhalla's coming, we know Assassin's Creed's coming, we know Formula One launched, and lots of other examples. I don't see this happening with Luna Plus. If they're looking at a channel subscription model, which they clearly are, then apart from the odd special deal they might do with the odd title here and there for Luna Plus, the publishers will want to keep those AAA titles on their own publisher channel. Why wouldn't they? And to some degree, Amazon would be happy with that, as they want you to sub to that publisher channel. They want you to sub to a package of as many subs as possible via Luna, by Amazon. If we look at interviews that they've done here, Again, this makes it very clear. So there's an interview done with Protocol. Now, Protocol did a very, very early interview with Phil Harrison about Stadia. They've done the same here. And they get these early interviews with big CEOs and stuff like that. It's quite good article, usually, or a good place for information and news like of this level and stuff. Luna's Amazon's bet on game channel streaming is all about channel subscriptions. I don't have to say any more. This is fact. This is exactly what it's like. And this is from the people behind Amazon. He says, so Amazon will kickstart things with its own Luna Plus channel. We've talked about that, blah, 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 blah. Vaguely described as a growing number of games, including Resident Evil 7, Control, and Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, for a fee of $5.99 per month. Amazon struck a partnership with Ubisoft to launch its own subscription channel on Luna, which will give subscribers access to titles like Assassin's Creed, Valhalla, Far Cry. So don't think you're getting those titles on Luna Plus, despite, as I said, the sort of presentation here. There they are. There they are. I know they're not explicitly saying it's on Luna Plus, but just the way it's sort of presented, sort of, they want you to be slightly confused about it because it makes the game presentation, layout look a bit more. And also partly why they haven't put your AAA titles front and center here. Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs Legion, right at the front here, because they're not really part of what they're offering. So they're sort of just intimating that they are available or will be available, but obviously via another publisher channel. So that's the thing to bear in mind. Back to Protocol. Amazon didn't announce any channels from additional publishers at launch. You'll see channels over time. So we can expect EA Plus or maybe an Activision channel or whatever. Equally, I suspect there could be an approach that Stadia takes. I mean, they're taking with Uplay Plus. Why not EA Play? Anyway, and I think this may be a model going forward for both Amazon and Stadia. He also suggested feedback from publishers had been largely positive. They're pretty excited about the idea. Of course they are. But anyway, Amazon has clearly learned from channels how successful subscriptions can be. But experience has also taught the company about the challenges of operating marketplaces on other companies' platforms. Okay, case in point, to avoid Apple's stringent Apple Store rules, Epic is currently fighting. Luna will be launching as progressive web app on iOS. We've come to that. I think those are the main things about Luna. Those are the differences. Luna is looking to sell you subscription channels, and Stadia is about providing you with two tiers: buy the games you want and play for free, or a mix of that, subscribe and get pro, get a library, an ever-growing library of games, and buy games you want as well, give you that option. So to me, the best of both worlds, which is often overlooked by people who sort of say, the problem with Stadia is their business plan sucks, and then they erroneously state, because you have to subscribe to Stadia and buy the games. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to buy games I already own and all that kind of stuff? Like with any new console, of course you have to buy the games again. But equally, what people keep mistaking, what's fed into the false narrative and has impacted negatively on Stadia is this, as say, the false narrative that somehow you have to subscribe to Stadia plus buy the games, when really it is the best of both worlds. Subscribe and you get a constant growing library of games that doesn't rotate out. If you keep subscribed, you get those games and they don't fall out of the library. They fall out of the subscription offer, but if you claim them, they don't fall out. Plus, if there are games you want to buy, you can buy them and they're your games. Whether they fall off, whether you stop subscribing, they're your games if you've bought those games. Or if you don't want to subscribe, just buy the games you want. Buy 3 games in 1 year and play for free, courtesy of Stadia. That's such a powerful offering that is so overlooked and skewed by this misinformation that exists, partly from the way Stadia launched as a sort of initially you could only subscribe. And I know in March and April, it became Stadia and then Stadia Pro. But I really think they need to keep emphasizing that, because there's still doofuses I see on Stadia Facebook pages who ask the question, so if I buy a game, do I lose it if I stop subscribing? And it's like, how clear does Stadia have to be in their marketing? Well, clearly, really clear. And I'll come to that later. But back to Luna, back to Stadia. The other thing worth touching on, I think, is the tech. So in Ars Technica, is it Ars Technica? Sounds a bit rude. ARS Technica. Amazon Luna servers will run Windows games directly on NVIDIA T4 GPUs. If you're of the technical side of things, you know what that means. Amazon's newly announced Luna streaming server will run Windows games on a standard Amazon Web Services EC2 G4 instance. So basically, in simple terms, what that means is it's a lot easier basically to get your games running on Amazon. You just have to make them be able to run on the AWS, the Amazon Web Services, run your Windows games on the basis that most games are developed for Windows anyway for PC. So if your game is developed for PC, all you got to do is make it work on the AWS cloud services. That's all you got to do. So effectively porting, it's not really porting games. Getting games onto Luna Plus is a lot easier with Amazon than it is with Stadia. So they can bulk up that library really quickly. But again, quality, I'd say, question quantity over quality. But there you go. In the short term, definitely that's what Amazon can do, and that's to their advantage. In the short term, this may allow Luna to get more games on the service quicker, much quicker than Stadia. And we've seen the delay in porting on earlier titles with Stadia. Now, this may change in the future as more and more developers adopt a slightly more future-proof software like Vulkan, but more on that later. But the more I look into it, it's clear. Amazon, a marketplace, just wants to sell you subscription bundles. There seems very little passion for the games or potential of games developed on their platform at this stage. Stadia have Jade Raymond, Shannon Studstill, Phil Harrison. And okay, I think, what was his guy? The name's guy, let me just check it. Witten? Yeah. So Witten was behind, in fairness, Xbox Gold Live, Xbox 360 and various launches like that. So he does come from a gaming background, delivering products and stuff like that for Xbox. So that's not to discount it. But Stadia have invested heavily in their personnel, in people who know and understand games, not just gaming. Amazon at its heart is a shop. It's a marketplace. It says so exactly above the door, Amazon Marketplace. It wants to sell you things cheap. And in this case, it's subscriptions. Amazon market hard. No doubt they'll market hard. They replicate what's already in the market. And they have mass market penetration, so they can make economies of scale on that. And they can market hard, sell low. That's at their heart. That's at the DNA. That is what's made Jeff Bezos the richest man in the world, one of the richest men in the world. Google, on the other hand, at its heart, is a tech engineering firm. They want to use tech to innovate and create new markets. Now, I'm being very simplistic here, and obviously, it's not quite as simplistic as this, but what I'm talking about is at the heart, the core of the company. So case in point, so Alexa's main function was to help you buy things. In the early days, it was like, hey, Alexa, order me some underwear. Don't know why that came into my head there. Whatever. Order me some stuff. It was in its early form, that was how it was marketed. Yeah. Hey, Alexa, buy me this, buy me that. And you could just add it to your Amazon account, whatever. And then, wow, the next day. And I love all that. I used to have a little Amazon button. Yeah. You press the button. And the next day, I'd have a load of washing tablets. They've stopped that. They've killed that off now because it's a bit pointless because you could just do it on the app. But you can do it virtually. But I loved actually having that physical button to do it. But there you go, Amazon killing off services. Oh my God. Everybody does. Anyway, let me know if you had it. It was called Amazon Dash. Let me know if you had the Amazon Dash button. Used to have it right next to my washing powder tablets. Open my cabinet door in the kitchen. I'd run out, press it, and then the next day I'd get a delivery. I love that kind of stuff. Anyway, case in point, Alexa's main function initially was to be able to just give you another way of buying stuff via Amazon. Okay, in simplistic forms, that's why it was developed. Google Home's function was to provide you with information and a better understanding of what you need. Yes, ultimately, they're both about selling products in the end of the day. We live in a capitalist world after all. But at the core company DNA level, you can see the different approaches the companies are taking. Let's not forget here one fundamental point. Stadia is a virtual console. Okay? It's the only one of its kind, a virtual console. It's designed as such, not just a sort of glorified remote PC server with which to serve the games. This is what sets it apart. And this is the far distant roadmap Stadia are going. Games that are developed specifically for the virtual console, specifically for that platform, not for another platform that then could be served to you, but for that platform that are going to only run on that platform, that can't run on your big gaming rig, that can't run on the other consoles. Stuff that you can do nowhere else because you're using the power of the cloud, because the console is in the cloud. Now, it's still a few years away, but people who question the decision to use sort of Linux or Vulkan at its core, I think missed the point. Stadia are thinking of the future, not the present. Now, time will tell. But according to Wikipedia, again, I'm not a technical person, but according to Wikipedia, if you don't know what Vulkan is a low overhead cross-platform 3D graphics and computing API. It targets high-performance real-time 3D graphics applications such as video games and interactive media across all platforms. That's why they want, the development that are based on the Vulkan at its base. Because of that, video games and interactive media. It's intended to offer higher performance and more balanced CPU and GPU usage. It's future-proof. That's why they've done it. Vulkan is also able to better distribute working among multiple CPU cores. Yeah, so it can use the different cores on different servers, on different server blades. So just for reference, in March 17, 2020, Kronos Group, the people behind Vulkan, released the ray tracing extensions by adopting previously existing NVIDIA implementation with some minor changes. So ray tracing is available on Vulkan as well. So there we go. That's the fundamental difference as I see it. I think Amazon is to be welcomed into the cloud gaming community. I welcome them for all the things I've said. I think it's good that there's competition in the market. I think there's good for the choices. I personally prefer Google stuff. I have a certain brand loyalty to it, which obviously does give me a bias towards their product, and I'll give them a break where perhaps others wouldn't. And I think we're all partly guilty to that, whether we're sort of PlayStation fanboys, Xbox fanboys. I am a Google fanboy. But on the whole, Google products meet my expectation of what I expect from Google products. And Stadia is one of those. And it delivers to me what I want. And it fits my case usage, as it were. And equally, I think Amazon will will be very successful in the cloud gaming market and bring gaming to mass, or cloud gaming specifically, to the mass market. And I can imagine that they will reach more of a market once it's launched globally than Stadia has. Interesting, going back to the Alexa point of view, Alexa has 36% market share compared to Google Home, which has a 13% market share. but it hasn't killed Google Home. Google Home is not dead. It lives and exists, coexists in that marketplace. Just Amazon market harder, sell, harder than Google, and more people are familiar with Amazon as a product than Google's products. And that's the sort of the key thing. Google's product is the better tech. And I will fight any man, woman, or dog who questions whether the Google Home is somehow inferior to Alexa. Trust me, if you've got Google Home, you can almost have a virtual conversation with it. It's that good. It knows what you're going to ask. It's incredible tech. But some people are happier with the mass market tech, as I'd call it. And that's fine. It's all about choices. And I think we'll see the same with Luna. I think if you're going to measure success in terms of market penetration, yes, I think Luna will probably have greater market penetration than Stadia. Will it kill Stadia? No. In the same way that PlayStation is more successful market-wise in terms of units sold than the Xbox. Has it killed Xbox? No. There's always going to be market leaders. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the best. Just means that they are better at marketing and selling than the other party. But that the marketplace can comfortably contain both of these and Xbox Game Pass and stuff like that. It's all about consumer choice, and I think that's good. What the launch of Luna has done is really highlighted cloud gaming, but also where Stadia need to concentrate on next. Now, they've got, of course, I've said this before, Stadia aren't going to suddenly do a massive gear change and change the way, change off their roadmap and their plan, but it may just heighten the senses, as it were, or put a fire underneath them to kind of pull their finger out, as my old man said, and get on with it a bit, and just sort of now Amazon have sort of actually, we knew, Stadia knew Luna was coming. Xbox knew Luna. Everybody knew it was coming. Stadia knew Xbox Games Pass was coming. All of that. But you didn't know exactly what cards they were playing. You roughly had an idea, but you didn't know exactly. Now they know. And once you know what your competition is actually doing, you no longer have to speculate. But then you can see how your business model fits in with that, whether what you're doing is on the right path, what areas of weaknesses you have, what areas of strength. Should you emphasize those strengths? Should you build on those weaknesses, improve those weaknesses, etc., etc.? Amazon have presented their kind of first set of cards, as it were, and Stadia will look at those now, take them on board, and plus they'll know what was going on behind the scenes anyway. Industries talk, of course they do. And we'll look at their own roadmap and sort of say, where do we need to sharpen up? Where do we need to drive home harder? Where are our weaknesses? Where can we really double down on our strengths? And I think that's what we'll see over the next few months and years. And I think it's a very exciting time for cloud gaming generally. Let me know what you think. Put it in the comments. I hope you understand that I couldn't do a live show today for those various reasons. I hope you enjoyed this show, and hopefully I've been commenting along with you if this was all successful. Thank you for being here. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, all of that, and share this as well. Tell your friends about it and all of that. And hopefully I'll see you next year. Hopefully I'll see you next week live here for real. And until then, thank you for watching and goodbye.